Let me start with the thing that almost everyone gets wrong about crooked teeth. We think it's a looks problem. Your teeth are a little crowded, a little crooked, a little gapped, and the whole conversation becomes about the smile in the mirror, about whether you like your photos or not. And obviously, straight teeth do look great. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But if that's the only reason you ever think about alignment, you're seeing about 10% of the story. Because a crooked bite isn't just a cosmetic problem, it's a mechanical problem with a body attached to it. Uneven wear in your teeth, stress on your jaw joints, spots your toothbrush can't reach, headaches, and even in some cases, your airway. Let's get into it. What's up everyone, Dr. Eric Jackson here, hope you're doing well. I've been an Invisalign provider for over 20 years now. Today we're going to be talking about what crooked teeth are actually doing to your body. Everything happening behind the smile in the mirror. So I want to set the stage before we go any further, because if you take one thing from this video, take this. Straightening teeth is not only cosmetic. Now I want to be fair, for some people, especially with mild crowding or a small gap, the main benefit really is how it looks. And wanting that is a perfectly good reason on its own. But for a lot of people, there's much more going on underneath than just the way it looks. And that's what most folks never really hear about. Here's how I want you to think about it instead. Your bite is first and foremost about force, how the force of biting and chewing travels through your mouth. Straightening your teeth is, more than anything, about getting that force to land in the right places. There's a phrase I come back to all the time because it's really the whole philosophy in one line. The mouth wants to be even. And by that I mean level, equilibrated, left and right, front and back. Your body's constantly trying to balance a load across your teeth, your gums, and your jaw. And crooked teeth, a bad bite, break the balance. Everything we're about to talk about flows from that one idea. Let me give you a technical dental word and then immediately translate it for you, because that's the way I like to do things. The word is malocclusion. It sounds intimidating, I know, but it just really means bad bite, a fancy word for your teeth not lining up correctly. It shows up in a bunch of flavors. Crowding, where there isn't enough room and teeth overlap and twist. Spacing, where there's too much room and you get gaps. An overbite, where the top teeth sit too far over the bottom. An underbite, which is really the reverse. A crossbite, where the top and bottom meet on the wrong side. And an open bite, where the front teeth don't even touch when you close. And here's what I want you to hold on to. I'm not listing those so you can diagnose yourself. I'm listing them because every single one of them changes the same thing, where the force lands when you bite down. And that's where the trouble starts. So let's talk about that force, because people often underestimate it. When you chew, especially on your back molars, you're generating significant load. We're talking tens of pounds of pressure on those small little teeth. Your teeth were built for it though. They're some of the hardest working structures in your whole body. In a balanced bite, here's what happens. The force gets shared. Lots of teeth make contact at the same time, the load spreads out evenly, and travels down through the roots into the bone. That's where it's designed to go. Many teeth, each carrying a fair share, that's the system working. Now picture a bad bite. The teeth don't meet evenly anymore. A few of them hit first, maybe a few hit harder, or at the wrong angle. So instead of the load being shared across the whole arch, a handful of teeth are taking way more than their fair share, over and over, every meal, every single day. Even loading means longevity. Uneven loading means trouble. And the trouble doesn't announce itself on day one. It compounds quietly over years. The first thing a bad bite does is wear your teeth down, unevenly and too fast. The teeth that are taking more than their fair share start to show it. The enamel flattens, edges chip. The teeth lose their natural anatomy, those little ridges and contours that you see. And they start to feel flat and gritty. Now here's an analogy I love for this, because it explains why something that feels gentle can do so much damage over time. Think about a paperclip. You cannot rip a paperclip in half. Try it. No, you really can't. But take that same paperclip and bend it back and forth to the same spot over and over, and what happens? It snaps. Engineers call that cyclic fatigue. And it's not the strength of any one bend that breaks it, it's the repetition, always in the same spot. That's exactly what a bad bite does to your teeth. No single chew is going to crack a tooth, but a bad bite that concentrates force in the same few spots meal after meal for years, that's bending a paperclip in the same place over and over. The damage is slow, it's invisible for a long time, and then one day, it isn't. I saw this exact thing in my own chair just last week. A patient came in with a big piece of the lower front tooth sheared clean off, close to half the tooth really. And when I looked at his bite, that tooth was sitting just out of line, rotated, taking far more than its fair share of load every single day. It didn't break because he bit down on something hard one morning. It broke because it had been bending in the same spot meal after meal for years, until it finally gave out. The out-of-line tooth was the one that failed, not the ones that were where they belonged. And when those overloaded spots finally do give, they don't usually crack dramatically. They develop microfractures, tiny hairline cracks running down from the chewing surface. You can't really see them in the mirror very easily. Sometimes you can't see them on regular x-ray either. But those cracks do two things. They let in cold and hot, so the tooth gets sensitive. And they give bacteria a brand new highway into the tooth. So you get decay in places that are hard to clean and hard to fix. A tooth that cracks badly enough can need a crown, a root canal, sometimes even an extraction, from a bad bite that nobody addressed. And here's the part that really matters. It often does not stay contained to one tooth. When one tooth is overloaded and starts breaking down, the load it was carrying gets pushed onto the neighbors. So now they're overloaded too. One domino tips the next. Your mouth is a system. Often 28 teeth working together, not 28 separate parts. A problem in one corner becomes a problem everywhere. Now, your body isn't just sitting there taking it. It tries to cope, and one of the ways it copes is actually kind of remarkable. Sometimes when a tooth is getting hammered by a bad bite, it becomes a little bit mobile, a little loose. As a patient, I think I know what you're thinking. Loose equals bad. But in this case, that slight mobility is the tooth acting like a shock absorber. It allows for a little more travel, a little more give. So the force gets spread out instead of slamming into one rigid point. That's the body doing what the body always does, seeking balance. But I want to be very clear, it's a workaround, not a fix. The underlying problem, the bad bite, is still there. The shock absorber is just buying time. And one important word here. If you ever notice a tooth that actually feels loose, don't just file it away as interesting. Get it looked at by a dentist, because genuinely loose tooth can be a sign of problems that really need attention. So if force is getting concentrated and spread and worked around all over your mouth, where does all that uneven stress eventually end up? A lot of it ends up in your jaw joint. Your jaw joint has a name, the temporomandibular joint. We'll call it the TMJ from here on out. It's the hinge that connects your lower jaw to your skull, right in front of your ears, and it's a very busy, hard-working joint. It moves every time you talk, chew, swallow, or yawn. Let me give you an analogy from outside the mouth, because it makes this click. Think about an old sports injury, a bad knee, a bad hip, something like that. When something hurts down there, you favor it, you limp a little bit. And over time, what happens? The other knee starts to ache, your hip compensates, your lower back gets involved. One imbalance down low sends ripples all the way up the chain. Your jaw works exactly in the same way. Think about sharpening a lawnmower blade. If you grind too much off of one side, the blade spins wonky and out of balance. It wears itself out and rattles the entire machine. You have to keep it balanced so it spins flat and level. Your bite's the same way. When it's unbalanced, your jaw muscles have to overwork to find a comfortable position, and the joint itself takes stress unevenly. Over time, that can show up as popping or clicking when you open, soreness in the front of the ears, a jaw that feels tight or doesn't open as far as it used to, even a headache that settles in and around your temples and behind the eyes. Now, I always say this part very honestly. Not every jaw joint problem comes from a bad bite. The TMJ is very complicated, and there are lots of causes, but a bad bite is one of the factors I evaluate, and in some cases, it's one we could actually do something about by rebalancing how your teeth come together. There's a close cousin to all this, and it's clenching and grinding. The clinical term is bruxism. A lot of it happens at night, when you have no idea that you're doing it. Now, the bite connection here is easy to get wrong, so let me be precise. Grinding that happens in your sleep is not caused by your bite. The best evidence we have says sleep grinding is driven by the brain and the nervous system, not by how your teeth line up. So I'm not going to tell you that straightening your teeth cures grinding, because that's just really not what the science shows. What the bite does affect, however, is where all that force lands and how much damage it does. Your jaw muscles are some of the strongest in your body for their size, and when they work overtime at night, they send that pain straight up into your head and neck. Morning headaches, a sore, tired jaw, teeth that ache for no obvious reason. The night guard is a fantastic protective tool here. It cushions and separates the teeth so the grinding does far less damage, and we've talked about that on this channel before. For most people who grind their teeth in their sleep, that guard is the right answer, and I want to be clear that I'm not selling orthodontics as a grinding treatment either. Where the bite genuinely matters is this. If your teeth already do not fit well together, grinding tends to concentrate its force on a few teeth taking the brunt, so the wear and the fractures show up faster and harder. Getting the bite to meet evenly spreads that load out. So if you're going to grind, at least the damage is shared across the entire arch instead of just destroying one or two teeth. Let's talk about gums, because this sometimes surprises people. Crooked, crowded teeth do not directly cause gum disease. Gum disease is really caused by bacteria, by plaque that sits on the teeth and gums and triggers inflammation. Crooked teeth don't create that bacteria. But here's what they do. When teeth are crowded and overlapped and twisted, they create tight little spaces that a toothbrush bristle and a piece of floss simply can't get into very well. And those hidden spots become exactly where plaque hides. You're brushing, you're flossing, you're doing your honest best, and there's a spot where you physically just can't reach. So the plaque sits, the gums get inflamed. That's the redness and the bleeding when you floss. Left long enough, the gums can pull away, and you can start losing bone that holds your teeth in. None of this is because the teeth were crooked. Not exactly. It's because the crowding made those spots genuinely hard to keep clean, and the brushing could not be kept up. And here's where the evidence is a little bit mixed, so I'll give it to you straight. Straight teeth can be easier to clean, especially if your brushing is not perfect, which for most of us is the truth. But a well-motivated person with crowded teeth can absolutely keep them healthy. And someone with perfectly straight teeth who does not brush well can still get gum disease. Alignment is not destiny. What I will say is that for a lot of real people living real lives, taking away the hard-to-reach crowding removes one of the obstacles standing between them and a healthy mouth. Here's one people don't expect. Your bite affects how you talk. Certain sounds, especially S sounds and F sounds, depend on the precise relationship between your tongue, your lips, and your teeth. Air has to flow across them in just the right way to make the sound correctly. When the bite is off, particularly with an open bite, where the teeth don't really meet and touch in the front, or a big overjet where the top teeth stick way out, that airflow changes. You can get a lisp, or sounds that kind of sound a little soft or wispy. It's usually quite subtle, and honestly, most patients who have it stopped noticing years ago, because it's just how their voices always sounded to them. But it's another quiet thing that the bite is doing. And here's one that's not quiet at all, and this is the sports dentist in me talking. When the top teeth stick way out, that big overjet I just mentioned, those teeth are much more exposed, and they're far more likely to get chopped or knocked out in a sports injury. This is one of the most established risks in all of orthodontics, and it's a big reason we like to bring those front teeth back into a protective position, especially for kids and teens who are very active. I want to talk about headaches a little bit, and I want to be careful because this is an area where dentistry can overpromise, and I won't do that. Chronic headaches are complicated. They have a lot of possible causes, and the first stop in that journey should always be your primary care physician. Please hear me on that. I'm not telling you your headaches are automatically a tooth problem. What I am telling you is that a meaningful number of stubborn, hard-to-explain headaches do have a dental contribution underneath them. A bad bite, nighttime clenching, overworked jaw muscles, TMJ strain. We work alongside physicians on exactly these cases all the time, because you'd be surprised how often the dental piece is a part of the puzzle. And the mechanism is pretty simple once you see it. When your bite doesn't line up, your jaw muscles can't relax into a comfortable resting position. They have to hold a compromise hour after hour, day after day. And the muscles never really fully get to rest. They get tired, tight, and sore. That tension does not stay put in the jaw. It refers up into the temples, the head, and the neck. It's the same reason why some people carry their stress in their necks and shoulders and ache by the end of the day. So when we rebalance the bite, we're giving those muscles permission to finally relax. And for the right patient, this is where the headache relief comes from. It's a collaboration. The dentist is one member of the team, not a substitution for the rest of it. Now I'm going to step into an area that I want to handle with a lot of care because it's very important, but it's also very easy to get wrong. The position of your jaws and the way your dental arches develop sit right next door to your airway, the space you breathe through. And there's a real growing attention in dentistry to the fact that narrow dental arches and certain jaw relationships can be associated with breathing and airway issues. This is especially worth watching in growing kids, which is why orthodontists like to evaluate children early. There's an old rule of thumb, a checkup around age 7, to catch things that are easier to guide while the child is still growing. This is another area where it's easy to overpromise, and I'm just not going to do that. Can orthodontics play a role in your airway and your breathing? For some people, yes. It can be part of the picture. What it is not is a standalone cure. Straightening your teeth is not a substitute for a real diagnosis. So if you or your child have any signs of breathing problems during sleep, things like snoring, gasping, restless nights, daytime exhaustion, those need a physician, and very often a formal sleep study to diagnose properly. Orthodontics may end up being part of the solution, but it works alongside medicine, not instead of it. Everything I've described today, the wear, the joint stress, the hidden cleaning traps, the way force travels, none of it lives on the surface. So when we actually plan to fix a bite, we're never just thinking about the front teeth in the mirror. We're thinking about the whole system underneath. Because the goal here was never just to line up the front teeth for a photo. The goal is to rebalance the whole machine. So let me tie this all together with one picture, because it's the picture that I want you to walk away with. Think of an iceberg. The part that you can see above water is only a small piece of it. I use the iceberg as a picture, not as a precise measurement. The crooked smile in the mirror is the part above the water, the part you can see. Underneath the surface is the other 90%. The uneven wear grinding down your enamel. The stress quietly loading your jaw joint. The hidden plaque trap your brush can't reach, the muscles working overtime at night. And yes, part of that hidden mass is real too. How you feel about your own smile, whether you cover your mouth, how confident you are in a photo or conversation. That part's not vanity. It's well documented and it counts. All of it together is the real mass of it. That's what crooked teeth are actually doing to your body and to your life. And this is why I get a little bit passionate about this, because when we straighten teeth, we're not just painting the tip of the iceberg to make it look nicer. We're rebalancing the entire system underneath. Force gets shared again. Teeth become cleanable again. The jaw gets to relax. You fix about 10% you can see and the other 90% you can't, all at the same time. That's the deal. That's why this is health and not just vanity. So that's what crooked teeth are actually doing to your body. Not just sitting there looking a little crooked, but quietly at work under the surface, the whole hidden mass of that iceberg we just talked about. A bad bite is both a mechanical and a health issue. And that's a lens I want you to see it through from now on. But here's the part that most people never hear. Getting your teeth straight is only half the job. Teeth that have been moved want to drift back. We got into exactly why this is the case in the last video when we talked about how your teeth move in the first place. So in the next video in this series, we're tackling the part that actually protects everything we just fixed. We call it keeping your teeth straight after Invisalign, aka retention and retainers. It's the unglamorous step that makes all of this last. If you didn't catch any of the prior videos in this series, they're all linked for you below. Check them out. Find us at Jackson Family Dentistry, 2033 Ogden Avenue here in Downers Grove, Illinois. We're about a mile east of I-88 and I-355. Give us a call at 630-963-6750 or look us up at jacksonfamilydentistry.us. I'm extremely passionate about modern dentistry and love discussing it. If you have any questions about today's video, drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to get to them right away. I actually read them. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.